Hello everyone. Happy Wednesday. Another gorgeous day. I was hoping to go live from outside, but the condo's mowing right now, the condo association landscaper lady. So if it's not leaf blowing, it's mowing, so it's a little noisy out there. I do have a few questions that were sent in this week, so I will be answering them in just another minute. I'll give you guys a couple minutes if you're going to join in. And as always, please just chime in live or send your questions in via email, jupiterslabyrinth@gmail.com, or you can direct message me on Facebook here or Instagram. Totally up to you. And if you're joining in and you feel like saying hello or giving a wave, feel free. All right, so I'm just gonna dive in since it's 2 o'clock, a little past 2 o'clock. And the first question that I received this week was all about just general digestion suggestions. And as you know, the herbal suggestions that I offer are just that, they're suggestions, and they're generalized because we're all very unique. So I always like to reiterate that piece, that there is not a one-size-fits-all for any herb or health practice, and that it's really important to tune into your unique needs and the unique offerings that can help you better balance yourself out. So in the way of digestion, I do have a couple general suggestions that will help almost everyone who is experiencing gastric distress, whether it's constipation, whether it is diarrhea, whether it's just erratic IBS, whether there's some chronic inflammation going on. And the first suggestion there would be to start upping your water intake. And this is something that's very obvious, but drinking half your healthy body weight in ounces is really important. And so I like to use 32-ounce mason jars. They're a really great gauge. And typically pre-pregnancy I would drink 2 of them. While pregnant I'm drinking 3 of these mason jars. So why water? Well, first of all, because our whole body runs on water. We're like close to 70% water. And it's a lot of the irritation going on, whether it's constipation or on the other end, is lack of hydration in the gut. In the intestinal tract. We need to keep things moisturized and lubricated, which also brings me to the other side of hydration and lubrication, which is healthy fats. So healthy fats, you can certainly supplement with them if it's not something, if you don't like avocados, if you don't feel like adding olive oil and good unrefined oils to your cooking, which is very easy to do, by the way. Eating more nuts and seeds and nut butters. Those are all helpful for adding healthy fats into our diet. But like omega-3s, you can certainly substitute with, cod liver oil is a great lubricant. So thinking about hydration for the gut. Hey Carlina, again, I love it, 2 times in a row today, woo. You need to think about lubrication and hydration from a water standpoint, but also a healthy fat standpoint, okay? Routine is another piece of digestive support. Our bodies thrive in routine, and there is a sort of an internal clock of when our bodies best digest. So typically speaking, we want to have our first bowel movement, or maybe only bowel movement of the day, hi Hayden, right in the morning, preferably before going to work or before starting our work day. And so the energy of the small intestine, and actually really more so of the large intestine and colon, is sort of activated or more awake during the early hours of the morning. So between 4 and 7 is when it's the best time to kind of stimulate those gastric juices to move the gut out, to move the remnants of whatever it needs to be released. So one of my favorite routines or rituals, which I mentioned a couple weeks back around my daily morning ritual, is to drink, and of course we're getting to the warmer months, so it doesn't have to be hot tea. It can just be like room temp if you want. But having fresh ginger, lemon, and lime water first thing in the morning. I wouldn't suggest cold water or iced water, but certainly warm tea or hot tea, or again room temp, and drink at least 8 ounces of this. And you can, it's kind of to taste, so add a couple squeezes of lime or lemon, a couple, like I call them ribbons because I just take ginger root and I take my peeler and I just kind of create those ribbons and I stick them in that way. You can also shred it in a grater if you want, and a pinch or a couple pinches depending on how much you enjoy the flavor. And you know, you don't want to go too hot because that can sometimes aggravate the gut, but it's enough to stimulate the gastric juices and to tell the body, oh, she's awake, let's go ahead and start to move things out. And regularly practice, and I'm talking about without eating, you know, drinking your coffee or your juice or having breakfast yet. This is before everything. It's going to stimulate just general digestive support and get that digestive fire going again. So that's a really important piece. The other thing about routine is that, and this is a cultural thing, so it's a hard one to shift, but it's around the importance of eating a good sized meal in the morning. It doesn't have to be huge, but a good sized meal in the morning, your largest meal in the afternoon, and your smallest meal before bed. Okay, and the timelines there I know can be tricky, especially for folks who are working. Hey Jen, and you know, we're not really set up to have a long siesta in the afternoon. That's more of a European thing, which is a bummer. But if we're able to follow roughly, you know, having breakfast before 10, having lunch before 2, and having dinner really before 7:30 p.m. is really pushing it. That really helps to regulate our own gastric fire and the regulation of digestion for us. And I know this is hard, just again, because we all have different schedules and cultural sort of norms for when we're able to get our meals in. Hey, Allie. But it will really help. And why is that? Because again, we're kind of following the natural cycles of our bodies and when digestion is optimal. If we're eating later dinners, and I know this is a lot of clients that I work with struggle with eating late. Sometimes they're not eating till like 9 o'clock at night. And again, it's all about making baby steps and choosing the times, just kind of back it up a little bit closer to that 7 o'clock, 7:30 p.m. Time frame. Is because right around that time we're moving into, it's, you know, Ayurvedically speaking, it's the kapha time. So things are slowing down, our digestion is slowing down because we're going into a resting mode, and it's not activated with all that, you know, that fire of pitta, which is in the noon to 2 time, that really gets our digestive juices going. We don't have as much of that at the end of the day. It's really dwindling down. That's why it's a smaller meal, and it's before hopefully 7:30. And so it gives our body less work to process and digest so that we can rest well. We don't have any acid reflux for eating a late meal or too big of a meal, and our bodies can detox, process, assimilate, and then wake up around that 4 to 7 a.m. time, and the other energy will kick in, ready to hopefully move the stools out after our ginger lemon lime tea. Okay, so it's all about trying to find the scheduling, the sort of sinking into that natural cycle as best we can. It really, really helps. The other piece that's really important that a lot of folks struggle with as well is the idea of when, especially when, actually it's across the board. So if your digestion is just cranky, one of the best ways to reset it is by eating cooked foods. Okay, when I say cooked foods, I mean, you know, salads and smoothies, certainly they're cooked on some level, but we were talking about breaking them down even more so. Because we're in the spring and moving into summer, we are able to incorporate some more of those raw foods, you know, in the salads and the, you know, the raw slaws and whatnot. But I will tell you that if you're someone who's susceptible to gas and bloating and cramping and constipation, that raw foods are not your friend. Okay, you really need to, even if it's just for a few days to a week, shift gears into cooked foods. One of my favorite sort of reset, favorite not being like, oh, I love it, it's delicious, it's my favorite food, but favorite medicinal sort of meal. It's a mono diet. It's called Kashmiri. You can find loads of recipes out there, but basically it's cooked rice, it's cooked beans or lentils, and cooked vegetables with spices, and you can change it up, you can make it really delicious for yourself. I'm only, you know, I only make that side comment because it's part of a cleanse that I do, and so it reminds me of doing the cleanse. And you know, I don't love cleanses, I love eating whatever the heck I want. So but it is good. I promise you, the first, you know, 100 times I had it, it was delicious, and then I get sick of it. But Kashmiri is a wonderful reset food for folks, especially you just don't do well, and just, you know, and part of digestion is tuning into what foods are agitating you. You know, when you feel acid reflux, what did you just eat? When you have cramping, you know, what did you just eat? We're very, we tend to be very cut off from the sensations in our bodies and linking them to the actions we just did, whether it's eating or exercising or whatever else. So part of the practice of getting back on track is introducing that self-awareness again and paying attention. So, you know, for some of you who are really struggling with your diet, and if you're working with a nutritionist or, you know, your family practice doctor, they may have already suggested, hey, start doing a food diary, but it can be very enlightening. For those of you who might be on the flip side of digestion, and maybe you have a very hot digestion, and maybe you are going 4 or 5 times a day, well, this is an issue of your digestion's too fast, right? It's too stimulated. So one of the things that exacerbates that kind of digestion towards diarrhea is spicy foods, very warming foods. So think Mexican foods, or, you know, that have chilies, or, you know, wasabis, and even too much ginger, even some types of Indian food that can be too warming. And we want to slow things down. So for someone like that, the raw foods, or the rawer foods like salads and smoothies, actually help to cool and slow down that digestive process a little bit better. So those folks won't experience the gas and the bloating in the same way that someone who veers towards constipation will. And so it actually will help to cool down the flame a little bit, because sometimes we have too much fire and not enough. So again, tuning in when you're having the distress. What have you eaten? Did you drink enough water? Are you getting your fats in? Are you trying to follow a general routine? Are you eating your hugest meal at night and then going to bed? These are all factors and all things to pay attention to. And if you know me at all, if you've worked with me at all, you know I'm not a quick fix lady. So I like to go a little bit deeper and get to the bottom of the foundational pieces. Now, certainly there are herbs that can help digestion along the way. I mean, I already mentioned ginger being one of them. Another one that is great to incorporate just into your regular daily water drinking is cumin, coriander, and fennel seed. It's a little recipe called Wise Water that I learned from Kate Gilday. And it's an Ayurvedic blend, and you use just like the seeds. I just throw them into my water and let them float around. Some people use a little tea balm, and you can obviously add lemon or lime to it as well. But basically those 3 seeds from plants are very balancing and nourishing to digestion, whether it's bloating, whether it's stimulation. It just helps to kind of flatten it out. So it's a great way to incorporate some balancing herbs that will benefit anyone, whatever they're struggling with. The other piece I wanted to mention when it comes to digestion is it's a huge component that we often overlook, is the fact that sometimes we eat when we're stressed. You know, sometimes we eat through our lunch break. Sometimes we eat over an argument or over watching the news on our phone or TV. These are not things to help healthy, happy digestion. They're just not. You know, I know that we can't always make time to just sit and eat, but when we do, and when our environment is pleasing, and when we're sharing the meal with someone that is, you know, not arguing or talking about something stressful, we digest so much better. We really do, and we can really fully enjoy our meal and chew and take our time. You know, a lot of us just eat so quickly that alone can disrupt our digestive flow. So thinking about that, like when you're eating, eat. Really try to make time to eat, be conscious of it, be aware of it. Tune into your mental state as you're eating. What are you doing? What are you thinking about that's stressing you out? Or what are you reading that's stressing you out? Set that aside and just be present for the nourishment that you're trying to give your body. And that's going to benefit, you a good deal. Post eating, like to continue the digestive function, peppermint is great for those folks, or any of the mints are great for those folks who have really heated digestion. It helps to kind of balance it out, slow it down a little bit. And then for folks who are struggling with more of like the, you know, bloating, gas type of combinations that come with more of the constipation, you could certainly incorporate some chamomile tea, again a little bit of ginger, maybe even slippery elm to coat and soothe if there's some irritation in the gut. Maybe even licorice root is nice if you don't have high blood pressure. If you do, you can skip that. But those are some general digestive supportive measures that can really benefit anyone who's struggling with trying to find balance within their digestive tract. One more thing that just popped into my head that I should have mentioned in the beginning is the importance of healthy gut flora. Hey, Bethany. And that can come in the form of kimchi or kombucha or, you know, real pickles, or it can come in the form of encapsulated probiotics. And, you know, if you're someone who has that heated digestion where food is moving through you really quickly, you're not going to want to go for the food grade fermented foods. It's really for replenishing the gut flora. So kimchi is already heating, kombucha is heating, all the fermented foods bring more fire to your gut. So if you're high pitta, or if you are someone who just like, you know, the stools just keep moving out, they're loose, they're yellow, maybe they have food particles in them, then you don't want to, you really don't want to use those. I would veer towards the encapsulated probiotic. A couple of my favorite brands are Jarrow, Jarrow, and another one is Megaflora. Those are really good quality probiotics that you want to keep refrigerated and just take either first thing in the morning or after dinner before you go to bed. So we really need to promote the happy, healthy bacteria in our guts to promote a healthy digestion as well. So a few tips there for those of you who struggle with digestion. Again, they're generalized, but a lot of them can be helpful across the board. So for those of you who've joined in, feel free to post a question if you have one, or ask me to clarify anything I may have already said, and I'm happy to do that. You can also just email me for next week's check-in if you don't want to ask a question live. It's no big deal. All right, so that was question one. I've got a couple more. And the second one is about pest control for your pets. There's a lot of frontline and, you know, bug repellent type products on the market for pets. And, you know, the people are feeling mixed about them, and for good reason. You know, those types of products are chemical pesticides that you're literally putting on your animal. And certainly there can be some harmful indications there. And so you want to just be mindful, especially of your animal's health. Like if your animal has health issues, they're struggling, they're immunocompromised, you know, you don't really want to be adding to that, because chemical pesticides are really hard for anyone to process, but especially our animal friends. So a couple suggestions that you can try out. And I've tried them with cats and dogs, but certainly depending on the pet you have, I'm trying to think of other pets. I feel like if you have another pet you have a question about, chime in, but I'm going to kind of stick to cats and dogs here. So neem seed oil, N-E-E-M seed oil, is one of my favorite go-tos for pet bug repellent. And it's not an essential oil, which is awesome, because I don't really like using those on animals at all. I've had not great luck. They're too potent. Neem seed oil comes from the neem tree, native to India, and it's the seeds from this tree that there's an oil in them, and the oil is pressed out, and that is what is extracted, and that's what you buy in a bottle. and it is a full spectrum anti-pest remedy, and it's a weird smell. It smells like a combination of like garlic and peanut butter. I know, but hey, if it works, it works, right? So one of my favorite things to do, or to offer folks to try out, is to, you don't need a lot, okay? So you would want some sort of base oil. It could be olive oil, it could be melted coconut oil, whatever you've got. And per ounce, okay, of this carrier oil, whatever you choose, you're gonna put about 6 to 10 drops, depending on the size of your animal. Now, usually with the frontline stuff, you kind of, there's a tube and you put it at the nape of your pet's neck and drag it down their spine and kind of, you know, leave it there, massage it there. That way they can't really get at it to wash it, because you shouldn't be ingesting that stuff. Well, you can do the same thing with the neem oil that you create. So you're gonna mix up those 6 to 10 drops in your oil, mix it up really well. Okay, and then you can certainly use a dropper bottle. You can pour it in and just do that if you don't want to use your hands, because it is a little stinky. But you want to massage it from the nape of the neck all the way down, and maybe even the underside of their belly as well. Now, neem is okay for your pet to ingest. You don't want to feed them a whole tube or anything like that, but it's not going to harm them if they ingest it. It's actually a dewormer too, so if your pet has worms, it's a little bonus. But it has the same effect as a lot of those frontline products. And certainly it might be that a tick or two or a mosquito or two are still going to come and find your pet, but they're not going to be likely to bite them. They might just be in their fur. So that's kind of one of the defining differences between, you know, frontline versus the natural stuff. Yes, you might still find them. You won't find them as much, and they'll be way less likely to actually bite your pet, which is huge. So you still are going to have to check your pet when they come in and out. You know, comb them, brush them. I know it's a pain in the butt. We have to do the same thing for ourselves, just to be extra mindful, but it works really well. The other way you can use the neem, or you can do this both ways, if you don't want to do the whole down the spine thing, is you can soak, you know, buy an old crappy pet collar and soak it in the oil, like rub it, massage, you know, wear rubber gloves if you don't want the smell on your hands, and rub the oil that you made with the neem seed into the collar, and then put it on your animal, and it'll last. I would say you're gonna have to refresh it. That's the thing with neem, you're gonna have to refresh every couple of weeks. You'll have to re-soak your collar or reapply to the spine of your pet. And yes, you know, especially with cats, they're very picky about being clean. They're gonna want to wash it off, but that's just kind of how it goes with anything you apply to your pet. But that alone is one of the best ways to prevent ticks and bugs, and it works for us too. The only time that neem oil is contraindicated is if you're trying to get pregnant or you are pregnant. Certainly if you're at the end of your pregnancy, it's safer because it does stimulate the uterus. So that's the only sort of cautionary tidbit of info there. That and the fact that you do need to refresh it. So neem seed, you can find it, there's a company called Aura Neem. You can use it on your gardening plants too. Like you can actually make a solution and spray your plants down with like soap and water as well as some neem seed, and it's a really wonderful you know, supportive measure to keep those pests away. So that is one of my favorite and very effective. I've heard back from lots of clients that I've used it in the past for any sort of pest. So, all right, so that was our question 2. If anyone has any live ones for me, please feel free to chime in. And this third question I'm going to answer, the last one, is it's a little bit of a reiteration. It's of stuff that we talked about the last couple of weeks, but it's more specific to yoga asana or yoga poses, and that is around what are the best yoga poses to sort of inspire restfulness or sleep before bed, especially if you struggle with sleep, you're kind of an insomniac. So my favorite one, and it's funny because it kind of seems like counterintuitive to want to put your feet up in the air to try to fall asleep, because you would think that just stimulates energy to your brain, which it does, but I find it very soothing and grounding. And it actually kind of, I feel like it almost like brings a weight to your head. So I'm not talking about getting upside down and a headstand or a handstand, so don't worry about that. But I am talking about getting your feet up and your body and heart down. Now, a little side note there, if you have high blood pressure and you are not on medication for it, or you're not treating it anyway, then you just want to be mindful that you don't have like the pounding head and heart in your throat. That's not something you would want to practice with. And of course, if you're pregnant, lying flat on your back with your feet up might not be a good idea depending on where you are, so being mindful of that. Always listening to your body. But I love legs up the wall. So it's literally finding a wall or even a couch. You don't even have to do your legs straight on up, especially if your hamstrings are tight. But it's basically just kicking your legs up the wall, scooting your hips in as close to the wall as feels comfortable for the backs of your legs if you're doing the wall version. Letting your arms just kind of fall wide to the side. Get a pillow for the back of your head so that you're feeling comfortable and your chin's tucked just a little bit. And just staying here and breathing for about 5 to 10 minutes. And just letting the energy, that reversal of energy, the reversal of gravity, just kind of take hold and ground you for the day. And, a really helpful tool to combine with this move is, a meditation. There's so many free guided meditations. I always do a little shout out to Insight Timer, which is a meditation timer. It's like $2, an app that's like $2. And it has guided meditations. It just has like singing bowl music. It's really lovely. You can set the timer if you just have 10 minutes before bed. Awesome. But I would do this, the legs up the wall, right before, as you're going, maybe you've already brushed your teeth. You're not going to go back and sit on the couch afterwards and watch another round of Netflix. You're going to go right to bed, into bed and lie down and rest. So I mentioned using the legs up the wall, but if you have really tight hamstrings, you can just use a couch. So instead of having the legs straight up, you just kick your legs on top of, the couch seat or a chair and then lie back. So it's really just like kicking your legs up, lying back, opening your heart, giving your head support, resting your eyes, tuning into your breath, and maybe having a guided meditation for you. It's a very receptive pose to just ground the brain, kind of turn off the chatterbox a little bit. It's really wonderful for stimulating the endocrine system, and again, you're reversing gravity, so all of the fluids are getting reversed, and that's a good thing to kind of reset and just replenish the system at the end of the day. So that would be my suggestion for just a pose that I love around setting up a routine. And routine's so valuable for anything that you're struggling with, to be consistent, to pick one thing that you're going to do and be consistent about it. And your body loves it when we are continuous and committed to things that nourish us on a regular basis. So even if it's 5 to 10 minutes, before you're actually going to bed to lie down, you're not picking up your phone and scrolling for another hour. This is like eyes shut mode. It's going to help your sleep tremendously. All right, so I'm just going to hang out here. If there's another question, or if there's another, if you want clarification on something that I've already talked about, let me know. And just another reminder, my email is amanda@jupiterslabyrinth.com or jupiterslabyrinth@gmail.com. You can email me in your questions, and I will answer them anonymously every Wednesday. You can also direct message me on Facebook, or Instagram at any time, and I'll just answer them the next week. And you can also ask me live right here as well. Totally up to you. But I will just hang out here for another moment. Thank you to all of you guys who tuned in. I hope you're enjoying your week. And it looks like people are signing out, so it might be that no one has any live questions for me. So I think we'll just leave it at that. And I will talk to you next week, guys. Every Wednesday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will be here answering your questions. Thank you again. Talk to you soon.